Hey there, welcome to the garden. Today is a little bit of a maintenance day. I am doing a bunch of deadheading. I put in these beautiful pink petunias in some of the containers you've probably seen in the last couple videos, and I love them, but they are like the old style petunia, so that means that I have to do a lot of deadheading.
And there's a lot of them.
So, gotta take all of these flowers off. And the violas also do really well with some deadheading. So I'm just coming in and trying to take off any blossoms that are faded on these two, because that will really create a lot more flowers. I've got to sort of decide what's going on with my lettuce here, because I think it's just starting to bolt. I need to pick some more and taste it. I'm also thinking about, with these violas, I'm going to do a little bit of deadheading, but I might leave a couple to try to go to seed and maybe save some seeds from them. That might be an interesting challenge. You can see this is like the seed pod, so maybe I'll leave that and try to come back out here. Of course, that means I have to remember to come back out and harvest the seeds, which is easier said than done. Although, wait, there might be one. Let's see, is this guy? No. Oh, there's a few seed pods on. Here's another one that's got a few seed pods, so I think I'm gonna leave it. I think it should like get maybe like brown, so it probably has a little bit more. I'm gonna try to save some seeds. That would be a good thing to challenge myself. You can see this lettuce has started to bolt, so I'm actually gonna come in. Yeah, I'm gonna go grab some garden shears and just take these out. Leave the roots in because I don't want to disturb the soil in this container. I've got my dahlia in here, but it'd also probably be good for the dahlia to open this container up, because it's not getting as much sun as it could with the lettuce. So let's go get some garden shears and pull that lettuce out. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna come in and clip it off at the roots. So that the roots will just stay in the container. And at this point, with all of these leaves being taken off, like, I don't even think it'll probably try to restart. And this will be really good for this dahlia. Hopefully this dahlia will do well. I planted a few dahlia tubers in a couple of the other containers you might have seen. None of them have come up. This is the only one that sprouted, but they were just dahlias that I got at a box store. They weren't like fancy varieties or anything. They weren't from any kind of a fancy breeder. I think if you order dahlias from, you know, a fancy place, you probably have better luck.
And you have a...
You think so? There we go. This will be good for it. As you can see, the leaves are just like a little bit yellow, so I've started fertilizing it. I've got it on a pretty good fertilizing schedule now, and hopefully that'll mean that it'll green up. Same with my nasturtiums, which I also need to come in and just take off some of the leaves. Nasturtiums I always find are a little bit like they just lose their leaves turn yellow a lot, and they're a little bit of work. You have to kind of come in and just keep an eye on them, but they are perking back up since they've been fertilized, and they're getting lots of good sun. The clematis are also just still waiting, not seeing the blooms open up yet, but I'm just gonna come in and, you know, just try to clean out any of the dead leaves. These are the kinds of chores that you just gotta stay on top of, and it isn't always like the most glamorous garden work, but I actually really like the whole deadheading process. I think it's something really satisfying, and then the plants in the containers always look better. Like, you just come in, pull out some of these yellow leaves. I'm gonna have to come back in here now and probably either maybe seed something or plant something else around this dahlia, but I'm just gonna give it like a little time to perk back up. And the violas do look pretty nice. They'll get a little bit more sun too, but I don't know if that's going to be a good thing for the violas. It's starting to get pretty hot here on the patio, and so their time might be up soon too. It's going to be nice and warm, so I'll probably end up pulling out the rest of the lettuce at some point this week as well, just to keep it, you know, keep it looking good out here in the garden. But, you know, just these little chores make a big difference. I am out here midday. I am also just checking on all those seeds that I planted in the last video. I have been watering these raised beds like crazy. I've been coming out twice a day to water because it's so hot and dry out here on all the concrete that all of the moisture just gets sucked out of these containers super quickly. But I think we're holding a decent amount of water right now, and I'll probably come back out again this evening and water everything. Of course, now that I am watering this container like crazy, the tomatoes, the lower leaves on the tomatoes are not looking so good. All of my, pruning and care, I'm just gonna come out and remove the lower leaves of the tomatoes and start this process of lower leaf removal. And then just as the plants continue to grow, I'll keep removing any leaves that look just, a little bit like they've got just like some kind of like fungusy stuff and everything like that on here. But just to keep it looking healthy. Let's see how they're doing over here as well. Oh yeah, you can see like they just start to get, kind of yucky. So we'll just come in and remove the lower leaves. I do need to order the trellis for these pretty soon here. I mean, obviously they're not so big at the second that they're gonna fall over, but like this one, it would be good to get it growing onto a trellis soon. So I'm just gonna get like a really cheap arch, I think. Ooh, this guy, here we go. Yep. This is what we don't want. Let's take that off. Won't bother the plant at all. With this being a temporary garden, so I'm only going to be here for 1 year in this space, I am kind of doing like the bare minimum when it comes to some of the investments in the garden, things that I can take with me easily when we move back to Virginia. Obviously I've got the raised beds, these are going to come back with me, but I think as far as something like a garden arch trellis, especially since I don't quite know what my like long-term garden is going to look like, I am just going to go ahead and grab just like a $30 little trellis. I had that in my last garden, and I wouldn't say it is a sustainable option as far as like long-term, years and years, if you want to have decades with a particular arch. But if you're trying out an arch in a space, you don't want to make an investment. Arches can be really expensive. You don't want to put like that much into it. I found that like for something like tomatoes, one of those kind of like more cheap, for lack of a better word, kind of flimsy arches, it does okay. The one that I had in the last garden, it held up pretty well. I had a lot of tomatoes growing on it last year. Oh my gosh, that tomato arch got absolutely crazy, and it held up. Things I wouldn't grow on one of those kind of like just thin metal arches are something like any kind of big squash, pumpkins. I love the look of like a pumpkin arch. Those are so beautiful, but I don't think that one of those trellises could hold anything that was like a big, heavy, hanging fruit. Now, the nice thing about the tomatoes growing up in arches, although they do weigh it down, there's at least some kind of support coming from the vines. Like they have some structure to them, and they're not just like that hanging sort of vine. So it worked out okay. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I just need to put that order in. It's taken me a little while to get, all the pieces of this garden put together, but I'm trying to just like slow and steady get everything set up. Hey there. Oh my gosh. It is getting hot out here. I'm just checking again for any sign of any seeds sprouting. It's been so warm. I'm kind of hoping that like everything will sprout quickly, but I'm maybe a little impatient. There's nothing happening yet out here in the garden. I did just get a very, very exciting delivery. I can't wait to put this together this weekend. It's going to be really fun to see. So I'm adding a couple more raised beds to the garden, and I will talk more about this as we get going here. I've got a couple new raised beds from Vigo Garden. This kid raised bed here it's a 42 length by just like 2 feet wide, so a nice height, 17 inches, so almost a 2x4 raised bed. And then over here I've got the little twin planters, and these are each, let's see as I turn it here, they're kind of like basically circular, so about like 2 feet 2 feet wide, which is cool. So that'll actually be a good amount of growing space. I grew my last garden in containers and then 4 2x4 raised beds, and I was pretty happy with how much I could grow. That's a real nice size. Like if you just want to have a garden that can produce enough to have fun in the kitchen and add a little bit, but it's not going to create too much work, something around that dimensions is pretty good. And with these raised beds that I have right here are 2x6. And so they're a little bit longer than my 2x4 raised beds, but with the twin pack and then that I'm basically almost about at what the growing space that I had in my last garden, which is kind of funny, just sort of a little bit of a different configuration. But I find that it's a nice, doable amount of garden space. And then I pulled out, I have some cardboard from our move and some packing paper. These 2 new raised beds that I got are not enclosed at the bottom. Vigo Gardens, who did send me out those raised beds, they have some fully enclosed container garden setups that you can get. So might be interesting to look at if you're doing a long-term container garden. But I figured that since I will be moving back and probably have an in-ground garden and I want to take these garden beds with me, that I was just going to get the ones that are open to the bottom, and then I'm going to use some like cardboard and paper from moving and try to line the base of the raised beds so that they don't stay in the concrete too much. But that's the plan with all of that. But I got to get it all set up. That's more of a weekend task. This is just sort of my week in the garden, which has just basically been watering all of the seeds, waiting for everything to germinate, and letting everything kind of adjust. This is our first big week of like full sun out here, and I'm noticing this is going to be a hot, dry garden climate. I can see that. I feel like, I don't know, at least the nasturtiums, maybe it's almost too sunny for them. They look really washed out. So I am going to come back out here this weekend and hit everything with another round of fertilizer and continue on with fertilizing weekly. Some of the things I think are more like Cosmos is a real full sun flower, and as you can see, these leaves look great. It looks healthy. It's actually about to bloom, which is really exciting. You can tell the plant is not stretching, like it's getting fully enough sunlight, and it's really happy and healthy, so that's good to see. But nasturtiums don't like super hot weather, so the peach Melba nasturtiums, they're gorgeous, they're blooming beautifully, and I'll just have to see how long they last. But I'm gonna try to give them as much fertilizer as I can, and kind of like, I don't know, try to keep them going. I don't want to over fertilize these containers though, because they do have the clematis in there as well. Good morning. It is early morning here. We are at the end of the week, but I remembered to come out and see about seeds from the violas. I got a water this morning. Luckily, I think I'm getting to a good point of saturation in the raised beds where they're actually holding a decent amount of water. The containers, everything is looking okay, but we've got like an 80-degree day today, so I have got to get out here and water. But before I water, we are going to try to collect the seeds on some of these violas. Hopefully they didn't already drop the seeds, but I think I see some of the seed pods starting to look dry. Let's see if any of these, okay, that's not the seed pod there. Oh, maybe it's not dry yet. I wonder if I should wait a little longer to harvest these. You know what? Okay, that one needs to wait. Let's go look in the other container over here and see if there's any. I feel like these, okay, so they're not quite dry yet. I'm just gonna take a couple and then let's open it up. I brought like just a plastic Ziploc bag out here to try to do this. I am not very good at seed saving, but it's really an area like, let's see, oh, I don't know that those are ready. I feel like maybe, okay, we'll come out next week and try to see if they dry out a little bit more. But I'm gonna save these just in case. It's always worth a try. Can I have it? Thank you. So helpful. I have one other container with violas in it, so let's go see. Let's go see. Maybe there are some in here. It's just such a fine line, right? Because if I leave them too long, and now I'm gonna have to deadhead while I'm out here, but if I leave them too long and they'll open, like they'll dry out and pop open, and then I won't get a chance to save them. But if I harvest them too early, then I don't think the seeds will be viable. But as I was saying, as I continue in this space and move on to my next space, my more permanent future garden, one of my really big goals is to start kind of closing the circle in the garden. So really getting into seed saving a lot of my own seeds, starting to kind of develop my own little varieties. And then also like figuring out how to make my potting soil, my potting mix, a closed circle where I'm able to create fertilizer and rejuvenate my potting mix without having to like buy so much bagged potting mix. These are some of my big kind of future goals as we move further into the garden. One last thing though, I keep getting distracted this morning. Look what's blooming. Oh my gosh, what a perfect way to end the week. This is the Double Dutch Rose Cosmos. Isn't that gorgeous? I hope the color translates to you. It is the most beautiful, muted, dusty pink. Like, it's just, when you put this in a bouquet next to the yellows and oranges of like the summer rudbeckias, it is so stunning. It's a perfect match for more antique-y sunflowers. It's just a oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. This is so exciting. Now it feels like summer. We're gonna be 80 degrees today. We've got this kind of cosmos and a whole heck of a lot of flowers on the tomato in the container. The tomato container update here is looking beautiful. It's doing so good. It's just looking happy. The basil's kind of still not looking great, but we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you for being so gentle. But this is exciting. Okay, I'm so happy to see that. Well, anyways, I'll keep you posted on the violas. I'll come back out next week and see if I can't seed save some of them. Hopefully things will dry out. I am gonna go ahead and just do another watering of the garden out here to make sure that the seedlings don't dry out today. And that'll be the end of my week in the garden. And then we'll be building raised beds next week and hopefully seeing some of these seeds coming up and maybe saving some violas. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.